So I told my wife it was time to buy some new trees.
Oh yeah, why is that?
Because I hadn't bought any since last year. Konnichiwa, y'all, and welcome to the 10 at 10 for January 2nd, 2024. Guys, it's a new year. It's new trees. We got it here on the 10 at 10.
Guys, we'll start today with Acer pomatum Hesojo.
I'm Matt. That's my brother, 10. These are just 10 of the 20 trees listed today. Make sure to check your email to see the full listing.
And if you don't get that email, you can sign up for it on MrMaple.com, or you can go on at 10 a.m. and see the full listing when they list at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. To start today, we got Acer pomatum Hesojo.
Hesojo is a dark red Hime form. Fits in perfectly with trees like Murasaki Kiyohime or Auto Hime. This one is a dwarf form with distinctly dark red foliage. I absolutely love this tree. Now, if you stake it up, you can change the shape a good bit. I have seen them staked into small tree forms. If you let this tree grow naturally, it wants to be short and wide, very much in that toadstool type shape like Murasaki Kiyohime.
Secondary flush during the summer has extremely small leaves on Hesojo. This is a red Japanese maple that holds its color extremely well, even in the shade. It's really surprised us how well this tree holds its color in that shaded condition. It can handle it in the sun as well. It makes a nice little rounded ball, kind of toadstool shape, but it's a very unique shape because it has lots of multi-branches that come out everywhere, and it has a medium-sized foliage on the first flush of growth, but tiny foliage on the secondary flush. Excellent for bonsai, excellent for containers. Definitely a fun tree you should try to grow.
All right, these are small, but they're mighty. We have a small set and a small size of Akaawa times sharps, guys. These are 2-year plants, so I like getting them on here. They're not a huge plant. Akaawa times sharps has everything you love about Maawa Yatsubusa and everything you love about Sharps Pygmy combined into one. It's got that jagged, sharp foliage of something like Sharps, which looks awesome for bonsai with that tight, dense layering of Maawa Yatsubusa.
So these are our small gallons. These are 2.5 years old from graft. So, I mean, it is a really slow growing selection. It's one of the slowest growing selections of the Maawa types. This one really has that really unusual leaf where it looks like a leaf like a Sharps Pygmy almost, but it has that Maawa layering habit, giving this something a really unique texture. It's such a fun tree. It's one you don't see that often in the nursery trade as well. It is difficult to graft, and they don't produce a lot of signwood. So it is one that we're not able to often offer as frequently as some of the others. Now guys, if you love Japanese maples, make sure you subscribe to us here on the Mr. Maple Show. We put out daily content all about Japanese maples and gardening. So make sure you're subscribed, smash that like button. If you're an international viewer, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And guys, we do a weekly podcast too, so subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Weekly podcast on gardening, mainly Japanese maples. You want to check that out.
All right, next up on the table, we've got a Mr. Maple introduction. Several on the table today, so stay tuned for a few more. We've got Acer pomatum Fountain of Youth. Now, this is an amazing tree that goes in our Pendulous Treasures collection. We have a whole Pendulous Treasures collection. They're all in that Ryusei style habit, so this one gets about as big as you stake it and weeps down from there. Now, Fountain of Youth has a heavily divided leaf, so it has more of a Matsumure style leaf, and this happens to have one of my favorite fall colors of any weeping tree. This thing can get to some blazing oranges with reds and yellows mixed in. I think that peak orange shade it hits is ideal for this style weeping tree.
Now, Matt and I went through a lot of Nakakomoto Weeping Legacy seedlings, and when we found this one, it just drew our attention because the leaf was so different. It looks like a little hand out there just weeping down. And it's got that heavily cascading habit, but a Matsumure foliage. So it stands out from all the other Ryusen styles that are out there, but it is so amazing, especially in the fall. You see this tree in the fall, and it's perhaps the best fall color Ryusen style of any of them. I mean, this is an amazing plant that we fell in love with. The more we grow this plant, the more we realize how amazing tree Fountain of Youth is.
This one gets about as big as you stake it. I typically recommend staking it to about 4 to 5 feet, letting it weep down from there. These are unstaked right now. They're actually really large sizes. A lot of folks have been growing these in hanging baskets or in big containers. That's another fun way to grow it. Now, also in the early spring, if you have this one a little bit of morning sun, you can get some really nice salmon to pink colors going on. Over top of that, it kind of blushes a layer of salmon over that lime green. Really a unique piece, and if you're already a fan of Ryusen and you have a Dragon Master or Ryusen in your collection, Fountain of Youth makes a great accompaniment to that.
So guys, next up, we've got Acer pomatum, Benny Fushigi. And this is a plant that has a leaf almost like a Kamagata, but a color like a Hesojo.
This is a fun one. Another one, outside the box for bonsai, because it has that relationship kind of to Benny Mako and Hesojo looking leaf, but heavily variegated. That twisting, contorted foliage is so weird. I love what this one brings to the table. It's an oddball to say the least. It definitely could hit our weirdos for Japanese maples for that texture that it brings.
But also our bonsai list for excellent for bonsai because of the small leaf and the great color. I mean, this is such an amazing plant. I love what this tree does out there in the garden too. I mean, this thing gives you some bright intense colors in the spring. It gives you some nice colors with summer flushes of growth. And then it gives you some amazing fall colors as well. That bright red that it gives in the spring and the fall. It's so intense that it's one of those plants that grabs your attention. Next up, we got Acer japonicum, Indian Summer.
You know about this one. It goes quick on our website. It's highly sought after. Everybody loves this one for its unique texture, but that fall color is really what makes this one pop off. It was selected for being red, yellow, and orange at the same time, and it consistently does that in those fall months. It's not uncommon for it to have all three colors and each on a whole leaf. So it's not uncommon to have a whole red leaf, a whole yellow leaf, and a whole orange leaf on this tree at the same time.
Indian Summer, it's one of the most outstanding fall colors when it comes to a japonicum. It has so many different colors on the tree at once that it's going to grab your attention because it looks like a calico of colors out there in the fall. Indian Summer, it's a rock star with those large japonicum leaves too. Gives a little bit a nice japonicum leaf to show that fall color on. And when it's not in fall color, it's a japonicum. Guys, it's got those huge leaves, that great texture in the garden. It's going to rock it out. Now, these trees are going to sell out fast today, Indian Summer. Make sure to check out quickly because our website doesn't hold it for you until you complete that checkout process. Once you get that order number, you got an Indian Summer with your name on it.
All right, here's one we put a name on here, another Area 51 intro. This tree, shout out to Mina Malad and to Bearded Bonsai, who recently just had little girls. So we put a name on this tree when my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, Carolina. I was thinking about baby girls a lot, and Carl Munn showed us this broom. It was a broom on Benny Shishihinga, so it was already a pink dwarf compact tree. He said, guys, I think this will fit your market a little better than mine. Graph this and let me know what you think about it. So we graphed this broom off Benny Shishihinga. He said, put a name on it. Well, of course, Amy was pregnant with Carolina, so Pink Princess became the name of this compact dwarf broom. It's an interesting plant because it's a witch's broom as well as variegated. So it's extremely rare. It's kind of a unicorn in that you don't ever find both those things. But, what dad doesn't have a daughter and the daughter's the apple of his eye? Kind of plays into the lat a little bit. Carl was originally worried it was too close to Japanese Princess. And so we called Talon and he said, that's a great name. Make sure to name it Pink Princess. I love it. He's got two daughters as well. So if you got a daughter out there in a special place in your heart, definitely check out these little compact trees, Acer palmatum, Pink Princess.
I love Pink Princess. And I have a special place for Benny Shishihinga. My mom, it's one of her favorite trees. And that's why it's the dot in MrMaple.com in our symbol. Mr. Maple's an ode to our dad. The leaf, Benny Shishihinga, is an ode to our mother. And it's so cool that we got to put a name on the witch's broom from Benny Shishihinga with Pink Princess. I mean, being a small, compact dwarf for people's gardens, this is great for fairy gardens. It's an excellent and a unique one for bonsai because it has small leaves. It's got much smaller leaves than Benny Shishihinga itself. It's vigorous at a young age, but it makes a tight ball as it ages. I mean, this is a fun tree to use out there in the garden. That's going to give you something it's just one of those trees that stands out. There's nothing else like it. And that's what I love about Japanese maples. They're the flavor of life. I mean, you've got so many different varieties that really just add and are so unique that compile and look with great contrast with one another. Pink Princess is one that'll do that.
Really cool plant. It really is an anomaly. I tell people this a lot, but there's not many plants in the entire plant world that are variegated and a witch's broom. It's very rare to be both things. You're typically one or the other. I mean, they're rare individually in nature. So then to find a thing that's both those things makes it a little extra special. And I have found it to be, we love Beni Shishihenga. We offer here. Again, it's our symbol. But I have found this one to be a little more stable even than Beni Shishihenga. So great container plant or conifer garden. These do tend to sell out. Shout out to all those new dads out there, Bearded Bonsai and Mina Malad. You guys are awesome. And those little girls will melt your heart.
Next up, we've got Acer pomatum, Pendula Angus.
This one's a mouthful, but it's a beautiful tree. Incredible fall color changes too. Pendula Angus is an older cultivar from Europe that isn't around as much, so it tends to be less in the trade. Great one for the container garden. This one's going to leaf out a lush green, going to some more Kelly green midsummer. I've had oranges, reds, and mostly oranges and yellows on this one in the fall, but I've had some flash shades of red in as well. Really showy fall display. Great compact, dense nature to it though.
One you don't see often in the nursery trade. We actually ran upon this rare cultivar when we purchased Highland Creek Nursery in 2013. And we got one of his stock plants and planted it at the ground at Maplewood Gardens at our parents'. And it can give you some really nice bronze colors in the spring, but it has a nice weeping habit. It's a Japanese maple from those old lists that you don't see around that often. I mean, this is one of those trees whenever it came from Japan to Europe and got the name Pendula Angus. So it got one of those horrible Latin names.
Right. You can't put Latin names on trees anymore. It's one of the misnomers for, well, you already have the Latin species, so it gets a little more confusing when they have the Latin species and then the Latin, common name or the Latin, cultivar name gets a little bit trickier.
But then everything becomes Glauca and Ogon.
Right.
Aria, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Come up with a unique name.
Pendula? Yes,
Come up with a unique name. But this is a really cool plant, and it's got those bronze colors, that nice weeping habit. And again, it's pretty rare out in the nursery trade.
Awesome one to check out, especially if you're a lace leaf collector. Don't miss this rarity here today. Guys, another beauty we put a name on here at our farm. But another one, just like Pink Princess, we didn't actually find. This one was sent to us. We've got Firefly back on the table today. Now, one of our all-time favorite plants. I love seeing Pink Princess and Firefly creep into your top fives. Check out our Monday top 5 videos. It's getting popular. It's getting out there. Even Talon looked at this one and was like, okay, that's got something extra to it. Something you may not know about Firefly on top of all those crazy colors, this one tends to be much more narrow growing. So, even an 8-foot tall tree is only going to be about 4 foot, maybe 5 foot wide. So it's got a lot of upright arching branching. It's not going to get wide like something like Grandma Ghost. It's going to be skinny and narrow.
Now, if you have a cool tree that you're like, this tree should be introduced in the nursery trade, you can always email us photos, or you can send us photos to P.O. Box 314, East Flat Rock, North Carolina 28726. We'd love to check it out.
Hey, if you have any cool maple related stuff, feel free to send it to our P.O. Box again. What's that P.O. Box again, Tim?
P.O. Box 314, East Flat Rock, North Carolina 28726. And, we can say, hey, that's a pretty cool plant, and maybe we can convince you, if it's really cool, to letting us be some of the people that introduce it here at Mr. Maple. But Firefly was one of those plants that is just outstanding. The purple color that this can give with the reticulation, with lime green and pink in there at the same time, it's over the top. And you can see this in the Mr. Maple Friends group on Facebook.
Because everybody that has this tree takes pictures of it.
They take pictures of it in the spring.
You can't own a Firefly and not photograph it.
And the fall. I mean, non-stop they take photos of this plant. And you can go and see their photos, and you can check out our photos on MrMaple.com, because this tree keeps changing throughout the seasons with an amazing reticulation. And to me, it's one of the best of the reticulated Japanese maples.
Hey, shout out to Chris Adler. He gave me that artwork back at our last open house. He gave me a picture of Firefly he took. It is my favorite variegated tree. Like, it just can't be beat. You heard the story if you've ever watched our podcast on the Area 51s. We introduced this one in reverse. A nurseryman sent it to us. We evaluated it for 4 or 5 years, trying to figure out what it was, and we just couldn't beat it. We're like, there's no way it's that. It's better. There's no way it's that. It's better. It can't be that. And so eventually when we talked to him, he said, oh, I didn't know. It didn't have a real name. The name was a misnomer. It was confused with another cultivar. He actually had the name Moonfire on it, which had never been sold under that name except to us. He said, guys, if you like this tree so much, why don't you put a name on it? So we really appreciate that. And we just fell in love with this thing. Firefly grabbed our attention. And every time we tried to compare it to something else in the trade, we're like, it's just better than that. And so eventually we realized it needed its own status.
Now, this tree has a really nice upright form. It's a good grower. And it's just outstanding in the colors it can provide out there in the garden. This is a tree. Check out fast today. It's going to sell out quick.
It was all a dream. I
Next
used to
up,
read Word Up magazine.
we got Orange Dream.
Salt and pepper and heavy D up in the limousine. All right, Orange Dream, y'all. Incredible plant. This one hails from Italy as well. It's from Girardelli Nursery in Italy. They named some dope yellow plants in Italy. I don't know why they keep coming up with so many incredible yellows, but they do. This one is outstanding. It has everything you want in that yellow to pale butter color midsummer. Now, early spring, you can get some oranges if you got a little bit of light. It doesn't want a ton of light, so you got to be a little careful with this one, giving it too much exposure. If you can give it a little bit of early morning sun, it can get bold orange. Then you can get some light pink shoots over top of that yellow. So that's really when it's its showiest, are those pink shows going on over top of the yellow. Nice orange fall colors. Really, that's where it gets the name.
Now, this one, you need to give some protection from the hot afternoon sun, but if you can push it with a little bit of sunlight, you get some yellow bleaching. And that's where I really like this cultivar, is that midsummer yellow bleaching over top of bright yellow. This tree is a rock star in the garden, and it has more of that upright kind of shrub dense kind of form. It'll get 6 to 8 feet tall, 6-7 foot wide in 10 years. Fall colors can give you some pink reds to bright orange reds. An introduction by Girardelli Nursery in Italy, who introduced Fire Glow, Summer Gold in Jordan. They introduced pink filigree. Guys, there's so many amazing plants that they brought into the nursery trade, and Orange Dream was one of their first yellows, and it's still amazing.
Great size 1 gallons right now. Dare I say it, these are notoriously BIG today. All right, last but not least on the table, we got Akaawa Heime. This is another introduction by Dell Laux Nursery. Dell, so many awesome trees. Y'all know Lillian's Jewel. We've told you about that till we're blue in the face. There are a million great introductions by Dell Laux Nursery, from Emerald Lace to Benny Hoshi. Well, one of their crown achievements here, Akaawa Heime. Now, that basically means bright red bark princess or bark dwarf. So bright red bark dwarf, incredible plant, describes it perfectly to a T. This is that mid to small size coral bark.
And that's one of the things I like about this tree, is it gives you that coral bark taste, that coral bark flavor out there in the garden.
Don't eat it.
But it gives it to you in a smaller space. And so this can be used very easily out there in the garden. It gives you some bright red color on that bark and intensifies during those winter months. Give it some sunlight though, in deep shade, you won't get the same intensity on this. And again, it's the winter, as the changing of the seasons happens, that intensifies that bark color.
Tastes like candy canes. These are incredible plants though. I love them. It's got everything you want in that mid-size. Now, it's not going to be a ball like Little Sango. Little Sango is going to be dwarf, compact, round, 4x5 kind of habit to it. This one makes a small tree form, so it's going to look more like 6 to 8 foot. Everything you love about Sengu Kaku, but in a much smaller shape.
Now, guys, we really appreciate all of y'all today joining for our 10 at 10s. We'd also appreciate it if you went to Google Reviews and gave us a 5-star review. Thanks so much.
Take care.
God bless.
Have an awesome day, and Happy New Year, everybody.